Hi, Warren.
All right. Hey, well, hi. Wow. It was just a mere few days ago that we sat down, we were talking, and now we're talking again. It's crazy.
Should we tell people this is an emergency no pod? As our no podders know, our Ryans out there know. It kind of became, well, not kind of, it became like our little bit we would do, sketches and bits. We would do a little bit at the end of our podcast, and we would put, we would plead to Craig Kilborn to come on our podcast. And it was a fun little thing that kind of organically happened at first. I think was it the very first episode that we talked that I brought up Craigers, or was it had to have been a few episodes in, right?
Yeah, I don't think it was the first episode, but it wasn't too far into it. A handful of episodes in, you'd mentioned that you went down a Craig Kilborn rabbit hole, which blew my mind because I hadn't thought about Craig Kilborn in a minute, as the kids say, a hot second. And yeah, from there, I think in that episode, we might have just jokingly said, oh, hey, Craig, if you ever want to be on the podcast, we just kept doing it. Repeating jokes. Yeah. We just kept repeating the joke, which is, always good. Yeah, it is. It's always good.
And so a few weeks, or maybe, I don't think he ever, so we would post these things on Instagram and just like tag him in it. And
you would,
I would. Yeah. And he didn't really do, I'd have to go back and see like if he ever even like actually responded in quotes, like I'm saying responded, like reacted to any of the posts we did. It might've been like 2 or 3 in of like us pleading for him that he finally
I thought it was almost,
I think he like, oh, do you think he did it on the first one, you think?
It might have. Okay. My recollection of it is that it was pretty much immediate. Like the first one you did, like I was blown away because you posted something on, I think it was Instagram. You sent it to him. You sent him a DM, right?
Which I think I just tagged him.
Or you tagged him. So no, you tagged him. You're right.
Yeah, when you tag him in a story, it shows up in their DMs.
Yes. Yes. You tagged him. And he responded, and you sent me a screenshot of it, which was just crazy to see. And then we did it again, and I think that's probably what prompted us to do it again. That's what really prompted us to continue talking about it. Is like, oh well, if he's responding to this, maybe he'll respond again. So you sent another one on Instagram, and he responded again with let me hold on, let me grab the. So here's what this was the first DM here. So proud of you guys.
So proud of you guys.
That's Jeremiah lovingly turned into a little canvas for us. Thank you, Walgreens. Shout out to Walgreens. That's true.
You don't know.
You handmade those.
I handmade those.
So you did it again. He responded again. And then the third time, I think I tagged him in something on Instagram. He did not respond at all.
He didn't trust you. He didn't trust you.
He didn't trust me. He didn't respond. The fourth time, you did it again. Immediate response from Craig Kilborn. He responds again. Every time, excuse me. Every time you've sent something or you've tagged him, he's responded. Yes. And so that leads us the most recent.
Yeah. So also in there, I think what built some trust was when I got my new one wheel, I extracted the audio of his podcast introduction and just laid it on top of footage of me one wheeling through like a grass field. And it actually does like, it's very airy, like a light guitar, like it actually did fit, but he got a kick out of that. And I think even like posted that to his story too, because he must, got a little kick out of it. So then, most of the no podders who are listening probably know this by now, but we're all leading to a point of which finally, last night, I DM'd him. This time I did directly DM it. Our teaser from our last episode that you put together of us pleading for Craigers, but more so me kind of going in on like why I enjoy his podcast or what I admire about the fact that he just unapologetically talks about the Minnesota Timberwolves it just doesn't even care. And he responded and said essentially, this deserves me to read it, right? Should I just read
it verbatim? You don't want to paraphrase the man. You don't paraphrase.
And so what I think worked to my advantage, I don't have notifications on Instagram like set to my phone. I purposely have them off.
Yeah,
and so
smart.
I got a DM from him at 8:00 in the morning, but I didn't check Instagram until like 10:30. So when I responded, it was like 2.5 hours later than when he sent it. So I think that makes me feel good that he didn't send it, and then I responded right away. I'm cool, right? Because I've got other stuff to do.
You're not thirsty. You're a busy guy. You've got important things to handle before you can get back to Craig Kilborn. Although now you've just exposed yourself, but that's fine.
It's fine. He said it'll happen one day. ... The next line, soon, and then 2 more lines below. Give me a couple weeks. Yes, a couple weeks, and the martini glass and fist bump emoji.
Yeah, which certainly is promising. I think if I'm interpreting your reaction to this correctly, I feel like you're interpreting this as a pretty much a lock. Like he's saying, hey, yeah, I'll do this. I'll do your show. Is that how you're interpreting it?
Well, so I wanted to make this clear too. Not clear. It is absolutely not a lock because we're not paying him. There's been no contract signed, but I do feel like he's a gentleman and we have a gentleman's agreement. And my response back to him was the handshake emoji. And I feel like if you got 2 guys who are just, we both love life. We both, he loves the Minnesota Timberwolves. I know them. I know what they are. And we do an internet handshake. I feel pretty dang good. I feel pretty good. And worst case scenario is that this just falls through. It never happens. And then we get this funny little storyline in here. We're like, hey, remember the time where a couple weeks we dedicated a whole episode about how excited we were that he was going to come on, and it never happened. But I do think it'll happen.
Which kind of leads me to, my reaction to this, which isn't so much. Certainly, I would be thrilled if he joined us on the podcast and we had the opportunity to have a conversation with Craig Kilborn. But to me, the thrill is just, it's in the journey, right? It's this journey. Whole lead up. It's just, which again, you mentioned, I think you said earlier, it was organically grown here. And, that's been the joy for me. So regardless of whether or not Craig Kilborn ever does actually end up on the podcast, hey, it's been a wild ride, baby. And I'm here for it.
It's so wild. It's been so wild. I just
hope, it's been so wild. I hope that, if it doesn't end up happening, that it at least, I just hope that he at least strings us along in perpetuity.
Yes.
So that it could be a bit that spans a decade or more.
Right. And that's like an actual, and that we are actually conversing with him and not like we're just making up conversations and making up this whole story. Like it's actually happening. We're actually back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah. And in fact, I mean, depending on how him being on the show goes, that could almost be the number one result. Like that could be the thing that would be the best result from everything is if Craig Kilborn never actually
stop talking.
Comes on the show. I'm just saying. I don't know how confident you are in your abilities to host a podcast with a legitimate guest, but
I mean, so here's the thing. So like, that's what I want to talk to you about.
Yeah, this will transition into how we plan to carve this turkey.
So let's say we actually get Craig Kilborn on this podcast, and so I don't want to like overplay it, but
sure,
I'll say this: he for a good period of time was a household name. Everybody knew who Craig Kilborn was, either via SportsCenter or then the Late Late Show, which was what I really loved. I mean, I loved him on SportsCenter, but the Late Late Show, that was my thing. It was like all throughout college. I watched it every single night.
Yeah.
Daily Show was phenomenal.
He was a host of a late night talk show at what I would say is the peak of late night talk shows. I mean, people I'm sure would say Carson and that era, but really I feel like 90s, that was really the peak.
Well, I mean, and I went back and watched one of his intros because when he was on his Late Late Show, his announcer that announced him coming out was himself, and,
Yes.
which is just so great. But when I watched it, the clip had like the end of Letterman, and Letterman said, "Hey, good night, everybody. We got Craig Kilborn next." I'm like, this is so freaking cool. Like that Letterman was his lead, and Letterman is my like all time favorite as far as like the guys that have been there forever. But yeah, you had Letterman and you had Kilborn, and then that was up against Leno and Conan.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to get to a couple things. I want to get to. I'm not going to spoil what I have. Two questions I know I want to ask him. Okay. But but before that, like let's say you and I actually get Craig Kilborn to come on to this podcast. What's going to be our approach? Before it, what's going to be our approach during it? Yeah.
Are you gonna say we're gonna go in with an approach and then immediately abandon it and like audible to something else? Is that what you're saying?
Probably.
Like this isn't working. We've got to do something else.
Well,
having
like
a backup
do,
plan probably isn't a bad idea.
You know, I mean, so like, do we say like, do we go into it saying because like, or maybe we should do this? Should we practice? Should we have a practice pod?
Oh God, no! What? No!
No.
Are you kidding me?
No. I'm saying, do we bring in one of our friends to record an actual? Like, we would release it, and we just practice. We just interview them. We don't pretend. We don't say, "Hey, pretend you're Craig Kilborn." We just interview them. Okay. But you and I can practice like our cadence
having
of,
a third person.
Having a third person because
yes,
we talk on top of each other as it is when it's just two of us.
Yes.
And
although again, I think I've mentioned this before. I think a lot of that get us in the same room, baby. We're firing on all cylinders. Okay,
right.
It's that there's a bit of a delay in it's hard to pick up the timing on that when you're doing it virtually like that. Look at any podcast. I was watching some of Kilborn's podcast, just after we spoke yesterday. It happens on that. It happens on every podcast where there's that virtual element. So hey, that's
true.
Buddy, that's not our bad. Sorry, not to like go off subject here.
Okay.
But the approach, so, we're talking about approach.
I mean, do you think we should like how much do you think we should prepare for this? Okay. I have one friend, Chad, who said you should absolutely not prepare because the name of your podcast is There Is No Podcast. And so, but then again, I also feel like if we're having on a legit, I can't even believe we're talking about this.
An adult man.
Yeah, not just an adult who's done some things. I don't like waste their time. And
absolutely. Yeah. No. I don't want him to come on here and think it's a clown show for sure. I mean, it's a clown show, but I don't want him to come on and, just be trudging through the experience. I think that you and I, we should probably have a little discussion about how to kind of handle things. Just a broad framework. I'm not saying like flesh out like here's exactly what we're going to do, right? So you and I have that discussion that just kind of sets forth a cadence for the episode, right? I think in general, for the tone, subject matter, what have you, what I was thinking was I don't want it to be something where, Craig Kilborn comes on, we're like, Craig Kilborn, hey, let's talk about the Daily Show. Let's talk about Sports Center. Cool as the other side of the pill. Jumanji, am I right? Yeah, nothing like that. I don't want to.
I got no interest
in anything
like
that.
I got no interest in that.
Exactly. Yeah. I want to have a discussion with him. I feel like, again, in the true spirit of There Is No Podcast, we get on here and we really just whatever we're coming in that day with. Like that's what we talk about. So I almost feel like we should keep that spirit with Craig. Just kind of, hey, what's on your heart? What's on your mind, buddy? What are you thinking? What are you thinking about today? And just kind of go from there. But I do think it would probably be good to have some, questions in the can, just to fall back on in case we need to. But again, I think those shouldn't be kind of the typical questions that Craig Kilborn would be asked if he were to go on a podcast. I think it would be things we would ask anybody, in this podcast, which, do you have anything against white SUVs? Maybe not that flippant, but and closer to that than talk to me about, the Late Late Show.
Okay. So I agree with that. I keep coming back to two questions I want to ask him though. Do you feel like sharing those, or do you want to keep that hidden? One of them, I'll try to be vague. One of them is a kind of a fanboy moment that I just have to have with him, but also I want to hear his perspective. So there was one episode in the Late Late Show that to this day was actually super meaningful to me. Like it was actually had a big impact. It was really poignant, which is not on brand for that show or for any late night show at all. But I do want to like ask him about what his thoughts were during that episode, which was a really hard episode, and if he felt like at that time it landed where like I remember sitting in my dorm room and being impacted by it and feeling like that was absolutely brilliant and met the moment. And so I want to ask him about that, or I would like to.
Wait, what was the subject matter? Or would that give it away? That would probably give it away.
It's fine. It's fine. So it was their first show back from after 9/11.
Yeah, okay. That's what I was thinking.
And there was a part of the show that just for me it checked all the boxes. It was phenomenal. I think about it often. And then the other one is more just like I would love to ask, because I think you and I talked about Kilborn before, and how when he was up against Conan, every night, that they also, what I found so interesting and fun about that was that they were like polar opposites in their humor, right? Especially back then, Conan was like very dorky and self-depreciating, and Kilby is like blonde hair, amazing hair, and like, his shtick
doing his own intros.
Yeah, doing his own intros, and like at mid-show, like turning around, looking out the window. I'm like, I'm just reflecting on a job well done. Like that kind of thing, right? Sure. They could not be polar opposite. And I just would love to hear him talk about, like, was that something that was talked about at that time? Like, hey, you guys make a good yin and yang, or I didn't. That's what I need to work on. I need to work on like what would be my question?
What is the actual question? Yeah, because I feel like if he were to, he would probably say, "Oh, well, that's just me," and that's what you're getting, and it just happened to work out to where the guy I was going up against was a bit of a yin to that yang. Right. But I think it would be interesting to get his thoughts on that, on how do you think that went, as far as from guys like you and me's perspective of watching that, because I love Craig. Hey, love Craig, but I would say Conan was probably, Conan is the tops for me as far as. Mm-hmm. Comedy of that era. Don't say late
that.
Night.
You say that now, but don't say that when he's on. Don't.
Oh,
you don't need to.
Well, God, no, certainly not.
I liked you, Craig. But yeah,
Craig, you're a great guy. Honestly, if I could have Conan here, I'd prefer that. No, again though, it was just a great time to, appointment television. As was SportsCenter, as was The Daily Show for me. I know, right. I don't think he necessarily was that into The Daily Show. I'm sure he put, a lot of effort into it, but I know I've heard him say that, his goal was to have that late night show. And The Daily Show was just kind of his conduit out of, okay, I got to get out of this SportsCenter thing. I don't want to get, entrenched there, but it was kind of a stepping stone more than anything else. Yeah. But yeah, I think he knocked all three out of the ballpark for sure. Yeah. So I think that it's peppering in some relevant questions is probably good. Again, like I said, I don't want to hit him with all the questions that he's
rehashing all of his past career
exactly
stuff.
Like he's answered a million times, but I think the questions you have are a little bit more niche, and I think that's good. I think that's good, and we can throw some more zany questions his way as well.
Yeah, I kind of like just for the most part, just treating him like he's just hopped on the pod, right?
Yes, I think that is
like he just hopped on the pod.
That's going to be the trick. And again, I think that's in keeping with the spirit of No Pod. Casual as can be. But that'll be the trick, is if we can keep our composure to pull that off.
Yeah, it's. I do feel like it most likely will be something that we would get off, and I would feel like that was amazing, or I don't think there'll be any middle ground. I think I'll even feel like that was the coolest thing ever. I mean, it would be cool no matter what. It would be cool no matter what. Or holy crap, we just crapped the bed really bad and just embarrassed ourselves.
I might have lost my internet connection here, sadly.
Hey, you there?
Can you hear me?
Uh-oh.
Hi. Sorry about that.
Oh. Okay, that was the other thing I was thinking about.
Yeah. So just to let everybody,
we're gonna have to
just to let everybody know, I lost internet connection there. Hope that doesn't happen when Craig's on.
That's what I was just thinking.
I've had some issues lately with internet dropping out here. I need to reset my router or something. Because it's been a.
Where is your router?
So I've got one of these.
Let's workshop this real quick.
I've got one of these mesh. They're the Google Pucks. You've seen these?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I used to have those.
Yeah. So one of those pucks is the main is the router there. So
where is your main?
Yeah, it's upstairs.
Router.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's what you got to do at a bare minimum before Craigers gets here.
Okay,
you're gonna go on Amazon. You're gonna buy yourself a 75-foot long Ethernet cable for like $10.
Holy. Okay.
You're gonna plug that into your router upstairs.
The big boy.
Run it down the big boy. You run it down to your basement, plug it in.
Yeah.
Plug it in. That's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to do.
That's smart. I'm glad this came up. I'm glad I lost internet.
See, look at you.
I'm glad it happened.
Do you feel like you have a new lease on life?
No.
Like, do you feel like you're more...
I feel like my internet's crap. I feel like I need to fix my internet.
Well,
no, the Ethernet solution is good. But even with that, I feel like the issue that I'm having is beyond that. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try resetting things. Do a little power cycle.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey. You got fiber? You got fiber over there, bro?
Oh yeah.
You have fiber over there, bro?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
all right.
I'm gonna.
Hey, I told you this would be in and out.
In and out
podcast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anything? What other Craig Kilborn related questions do you and I need to hash out right here in full transparency? Because that's what we are. We're full transparency pod.
Absolutely.
We're not just a no pod. We are full transparency pod.
Hearts on our sleeves.
And so with our audience.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I think we've covered all the major bases here. I think just to reiterate to our No Pod Nation, all the Ryans out there, the Ryan-acs.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Maniacs. I don't know if that one's going to stick.
I see what you're
I don't know if that
do.
one's going to stick. We got Craig Kilborn potentially coming on the show. That's really the news of the day here. So hopefully that happens soon. Jeremiah, I'm going to leave it up to you because he does not care to respond to me on social media. So it's
okay. It's okay.
No, it's
okay. It'd be messy if you.
That's true. That's true. I didn't post a video of me on my wheelie, whatever it's called.
Wheelie. Okay, so normally we do a full episode and then we do our plea to Craigers at the end.
Sure.
But now that this whole episode was dedicated towards potentially having Craig on someday, we're going to end mentioning somebody else. And I was in a text exchange today with somebody, and I promised him I would name drop him right here. Brad Shelton.
No way. What's Brad up to? Is he going to be a practice guest?
Oh man. But I don't know, but he is one of the people that, like, whenever I got that DM from Craig, I was like,
oh yeah.
Oh, Brad Shelton's on the short list of guys who would just absolutely freak out.
What was his reaction to that?
Oh yeah, multiple excited texts. I mean, he couldn't believe it. So Brad is our friend from high school.
Yeah.
He went to high school with Warren.
Yes.
Describe Brad for everybody listening out there.
Brad, tall, athletic. I haven't seen Brad in years, so I don't know if the athleticism has dropped
He's still
off
tall.
at all. I feel like he's just as athletic, if not more athletic today than he was in high school. Oh, Jeremiah, you okay?
I muted it. You were supposed to just ignore this.
Hey, no, that's not on No Pod. We share all the coughs. Okay, there's nothing we keep from the Ryans.
Oh, I hope I don't do that with Craig.
Yeah, no, Brad, good guy, good friend, buddy. Used to play RBI baseball over at his house all the time, eating chocolate chip cookies. Always a blast hanging out with Brad. I remember he had
his mom always made chocolate chip.
Yes.
Kathy always made chocolate chip cookies, didn't she?
I remember he had his first car. My first car I loved. It was like Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme, like 88, 89, blue, powder blue.
Okay.
Loved it. Coupe. He had a truck, a red truck. I don't know. I can't remember what it was. I don't know if it was a Toyota, maybe. Do you remember this truck?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, it was a red truck, but it wasn't like a huge truck. You know, trucks today, man, they're ridiculous. His truck was small. It was definitely like a first car kind of a truck where you'd only really fit two people in it. Man, I love that truck. I love that truck. I would get a truck like that if I could.
So the one I want to know if you're the one that came up with this. So Brad had a problem where where food would get stuck in his throat.
Yes, I remember this. Yeah. He had to have his.
You remember this?
Yeah, esophagus. Worked on.
He had to have like esophagus.
Yep.
Right. I actually have the same problem, and my doctor's told me that multiple times I should go and have the surgery. And I just remember procedure.
Yeah, because it's
I
like multiple.
Brad saying just how awful it was.
Yeah.
Or where they go in, they like stretch out.
Yeah,
your
it's not like a single procedure. It's literally you go in and they stretch out your esophagus, and they do that multiple times until it hopefully sticks. Because you would think your esophagus is just going to kind of shrink back to its normal size. But yeah, you do that enough, and I guess maybe you get a little bit more width out of it.
Right.
Sounds terrible.
So Brad's best sport, I think he would probably say, was baseball. That's what he played in college. Played at I think Elmhurst.
Yes.
Right. Do you remember the nickname you gave him when he was a pitcher at Warrensburg Latham High School?
I would say it wasn't so much a nickname, but this harkens back on our last episode where we were talking about what do you say to a teammate, pitcher specifically,
right,
when they're when they need a little juice, right, when they need a little pep. Okay, so Brad,
what would you say to him?
Brad, what we would say to Brad, after we learned of this esophagus thing that he was having to go through, we would say we would tell him to give the hitters esophagus.
So stupid.
and varying inflections. Yeah. No, it was very high school boy. It was a hit with all of us high school boys. But
that's great.
Esophagus.
I mean, here I was at my doctor's appointment a couple years ago, and he's telling me that I need to have this done.
Mm-hmm.
And the word that comes to my mind is esophagus.
That's all you could think about. He's like, "Why are you laughing?"
That's all I could think about.
He's like, "Why are you giggling?" I'm telling you, you have to have this procedure. It's very painful. Nobody likes having it. And you're over here giggling.
Nobody likes that. I don't know. I was like, well, yeah, a buddy of mine had it, and he was a pitcher. So, all right. Anything else for me, Warren?
No. I think we're good. We'll let you go. Looking forward to hopefully having Craig on soon.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Craig. I want to say thank you. I did not. Thank you for coming on. We're excited to have you, and it's not going to be awkward at all.
Nope. It's going to be the best.
It's just going to be three friends.
It's going to be the best.
It's going to be the best. That's it. Okay, bye.
Bye, buddy.